Welcome to 52 Miniatures. My name is Alex, and this video is sponsored by Squarespace. My hobby is painting miniatures for tabletop games. One of my more recent projects is this army, a Stormcast army for Games Workshop's Age of Sigmar game. For 3 years I've been working on this army. Not only has the painting taken its time, most of the miniatures are customized. They're changed into something rather unique. Games like these from Games Workshop receive regular updates to the rules. It's a 3-year cycle. Only this time we're at the end of a 3-year cycle. I have been told that a number of miniatures are going to be retired from the game. And it looks like potentially about half of my army that has taken about 3 years to create has been made potentially useless. But that, my friends, is not the worst of it. I'd like to start from the beginning, take you on my journey with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, from where it all started, to what happened, and to where it ends. After buying my first starter box, a box with 2 factions and rules and all that, I soon realized I wanted to expand the Stormcast army faction. I stumbled upon a pretty complete army on eBay, still in boxes, and charged ahead, mightily inspired. I created a theme, the Stormcast Ninja Rangers, sneaky armored ninja rangers, paint jobs inspired by more modern warfare colors and camouflage. Also trying to diversify by customizing a lot of male models into females, as Games Workshop at the time were not doing a very good job in that regard. It took me a year or 2 to paint up the entire army, and I was enjoying myself. Not only the painting, creating stories and background history for my army was fun and helped me keep going. Just as I was done, a 3-year cycle had come to an end, and Games Workshop released a new version of the game, revision of the rules of Age of Sigmar, and because of changes to the faction and the individual miniature statistics, my army turned into something rather boring to play, and so I decided to go for another run. While playing games with the modified version of my previous army, I devised a grand plan for a new one. Roman-inspired Owlcast. This time going for an even more substantial altering of models and a higher standard of painting. Together with Sin nerds, I created custom Roman Owlcast shields that I could print on my 3D printer. I kit-bashed entire new creations using several bits I'd collected over the years together with freshly purchased kits. Sometimes going to the extreme, like with this hero model in Drusta, buying a €50 Warhammer 40k model on eBay only so that I could use its wings to complete her image. I was in the midst of finishing the painting on the last few miniatures when the news of new changes reached me. What has happened is essentially a change that looks very promising when it comes to rules and gameplay. But as the company that makes the game and the miniatures for it have been bloating my faction with miniatures over the years, because, well, selling miniatures makes them money, and now they want to release more new miniatures with a new release but can't really keep bloating the over-bloated. There's just too much already. So old stuff that doesn't sell goes out and new stuff comes in. The circle of capitalist life. I want to mention as well that another 2 full army factions have been retired from the game. My gaming buddy Carl's Beastman army, for example, is made obsolete. But now, let's have a look at my army. I'm rather proud of it, to be honest. There's a few more miniatures than there should be, just to be able to have some, miniatures to swap out, changing the list just a little bit every now and again. But let's do a proper showcase.
Hey. Down here.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about Squarespace?
Yeah, sure. The sponsors of this video, but I was
Exactly. Let me tell you some more.
Okay. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for creating websites, an intuitive platform that I've been using for some time. Lucky for me, there's no need for expertise. You can choose between carefully curated layouts or start a completely personalized website with the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. A tailored website to suit your needs, up in no time, optimized for all devices and with optimized SOE tools so you show up more often to more people. For me, Squarespace has been a great tool, starting with a nice template that I can adjust for my specific needs. I've created a website with introductions to my work, with galleries of my miniatures and such. It also hosts my online store. Customizing the shop with print-on-demand t-shirts as well as my own artworks and downloads has worked out well, and with a back-end that makes my side of things simple when dealing with deliveries and fulfillment. The checkout and payment options for customers works seamlessly, accepting credit cards, PayPal and Apple Pay, but also pay later options like Afterpay and ClearPay. If you're looking for somewhere to display your art, sell merch, if you have a painting service or sell STLs, start up a website for your own game store or club, check out Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/52miniatures to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And now let's get back to the showcase. So these are my wonderful dragons. Now, these dragon riders actually need just a little bit more paint. I haven't quite finished them. There's a blade that needs some paint. There's a head over here that needs some paint. These were my goal, to create sort of dragons that look magical. They've got sparkly wings with gold and all of that kind of stuff. The riders obviously have my custom Owlcast shields. Over here is some sort of regular troops. They've been altered in the way of scraping off all the sort of spiky bits, changing the helmets a little bit, making them look a little more, not really Roman, but at least different. And of course, they also all have the wonderful Owlcast Roman shields. In the middle, there's two chunks of these paladins. Lovely, all very sort of kit-bashed, different kits, bits from Warhammer 40k, and there's these gladiator helmets, custom shields, of course, just bits and pieces from my bits boxes. I've spent quite a bit of time on these, as well as sort of sculpting some bits in green stuff, things like that. We've got a magician, actually from the old army. Here's the general, a priest. This is a total kit bash as well. This miniature doesn't exist apart from here. This is supposed to be a hero that I haven't really finished. You can see it's missing a head. And I can't really remember where the head is. But in the midst of painting that, I've got a lovely green cloak going and an attempt at some kind of non-metallic metal armor. The famous Indrusta, the celestial spear, also with a gladiator helmet and new wings. We've got some chunky folk here. This one turned into a lady with a little head. These two aren't really quite finished. Still need a few layers of paints. And over here we've got these crossbow fellas. These are actually 3D printed bodies from one-page rules, I think, that I've added Stormcast heads and the right Stormcast weapons. So I've essentially chopped up my Stormcast, put some bits and pieces on these just because I just thought this looked cooler, and it was a way of getting the shields in on these crossbow fellows. So let's have a look at what's going to be left after the update. Removing all the things that Games Workshop are removing from the list. So these are going. Bye-bye, gladiators. We've also got this lady here, the magician. Can't have that one. And then all of these are going. And this, I believe, is what we're left with. That's about half of the army. We've also got things I figured I'd, be able to use if I want to change the list every now and again. Things I painted in the past. 2 lovely camouflaged ballistas with crew. They're out. Can't have them anymore. That'd be silly. This lovely fella, some hammers. Hero fella, can't have that one. Another customly kit-bashed hero, can't have that one. This fella, I've actually got another one of these, I just can't find it. Holding a lantern or something like that, can't have that. There's also these. Now these are Liberators. We're getting new Liberator miniatures, all holding hammers. Mine have all got swords. So, that's kind of a little bit of an in-between. There's also these. They're going. And there's a box. Sorry about the noise. There's another box here of, stuff that isn't quite finished that I have been using in games. Yeah, stuff. Apart from a few of them, most of this is just going. So we'll put that aside. What I'm left with that's still intact are these Vanguard fellas. But, honestly, who knows? In 3 years' time, maybe they will end up in the reserves as well.
You would probably expect me to be a little upset. A few years of work, and these minis aren't cheap. We're looking at something in the range of €350 worth of models that are removed from my gaming table. But I'm not. And let me explain why. The removal of these models from the rulebooks will not make my models spontaneously self-combust. What I've learnt during the time painting these models is knowledge no company can take away from me. And the fun and relaxing moments I've had doing my hobby are still rewarding memories. And I'm in this hobby to have fun, so I'm staying away from upset. I am a bit resigned, though. A company respectful of its following could, for example, just release new models, if they so dearly wish, that replace the old ones but still fill the same function. Have the same names as the existing, letting everyone still go to competitions and play games with what they've collected over the years, with the option to buy new minis if they want. I think the way this change was presented is a bit resentful towards a lot of people and the miniatures they've put their hearts into. It seems the only thing that matters behind smokescreens of hobby love is making money. And there's not really anything wrong with that. Even though a socialist, state-owned miniature games company would be a fun experiment, mandatory games night Wednesdays for all comrades. But I guess I've been living under a rock of happy hobby times and not seen the money grabbers pulling all the strings until now. This game opened up many fun ideas for me and a willingness to create something special. Thank you for that, Games Workshop. But if I invest more time, care and money into the next project, how do I know it's not just going to get discontinued in a few years? Now, change can obviously be great, and I will probably continue to buy Games Workshop models. I enjoy my life under my little hobby rock, rather than face the harshness of real-world boardroom decisions. But I need to change how I allocate my hobby time and energy. And for me, this is the sad part. This is the worst of it. My next big love project will not be for a Games Workshop game. Treating something as if it's special, as if it's unique, when that does not go both ways, is not going to work. And so, for now, this is the last you'll see of extravagant Stormcast projects around here. There's plenty of other games out there that deserve the attention. I love Games Workshop miniatures and I enjoy the world of Warhammer, but I need to change my approach. The current business model just does not suit my style of hobbying. Not unless you love me back.
Now, I'm honestly not too keen on finishing some of these miniatures because I don't know what things will look like this summer with the new rules. So these will be parked in the let's wait until Games Workshop decides your fate parking lot. But these two dragons, they're lovely, and I should honor them by completing them. So the riders just need a little bit more work, and I need to paint the bases. And I think that will be a fitting end to this army to at least have, finished dragons.
And so I thought I'd sneak in a few potential tips and tricks. First, regarding bases. I primed my base with a one-shot brown oxide primer from Ammo by MiG, my new favorite collection of airbrush primers. But this could be any primer. To prime the base in the dominant color of what's on the base is a great start. Mine are mainly dirt, so I go for brown. But say they would have been sci-fi, and maybe I'd used a metallic, or a pile of stone rubble, and I'd prime them grey. I then continue on with spraying a light grey on all the stonework. I haven't used much airbrush for this army, but we're now powering through maximum warp. Maybe this is good practice for my potential next speed-painted non-love Warhammer army, so that I can play games with friends before things get retired. Anyway, what I want to say is you could be doing this with a brush. It's just about hastily covering the different bits with their respective base coats. Something a bit brighter than you would want in the end, because the next step is darkening things down. I pick out some contrast-style paints, darker versions of what I've already painted, so a dark grey and some browns. This could be other transparent paints like washes, matching what you've got going on the base. I thin the contrast paint with water when things get too dark and continue just covering everything in its respective colour. And this is what it looks like when dry. Next step is tinting things slightly with something a bit more colourful. I'm using a dark, sort of blue-green transparent paint, painting with my airbrush again, just to scare you. But this could be brushed on as well. I use a very thin down paint. I just want to tint some of the surfaces, mainly the ones that are or would be in shadow. This tint could be anything, something pink on a sci-fi base for that cyberpunk vibe, something orange on a yellow sandy base. Essentially just some color to make everything look just a bit more interesting. In my case, I'm thinking of a fantasy-style base with moss that is growing here and there. Then time for highlights. I do a bit more controlled highlights on the very detailed bits. Fast sort of edge highlights with the bright grey. And then more sort of a dry brush on all the earth and soil, going for a brighter brown. I pick out a nice moss green and stipple on some moss, just watered down paint. This adds some more fun color, but I mainly use it to hide whatever previous imperfections I'm not too proud of. You know, the very dark puddles that contrast paint sometimes creates, or covering whatever hasty dry brushing I'm not liking. This green also blends the different sections of brown and grey together, making things look a little more natural. Again, this could be any color that matches your scheme. Finally, I add some dry pigments, brown and green in my case. This will not be as prominent after I varnish the base, but again it does a good job of hiding any prior imperfections as well as adding a natural vibe to the base that is really difficult to achieve with wet paints. With some tufts, again hiding any leftover painting mistakes, and we have a really nice base. Now this might seem like a lot of different steps, but they can all be done swiftly. Each step enhances the base but also covers past mistakes. So you can have a pretty carefree painting experience, but in the end still end up with a very nice base. Now the riders were mostly done already, apart from some minor details. I was inspired by the cream and gold armor Emperor Commodus wears at some point in the movie Gladiator. The thing I'd like to share from this is painting the hair on this rider. Excuse the sometimes out of focus footage. I painted everything with a blue, added a layer of brown wash, and then added a fresh layer of blue, trying to pick out the largest sculpted chunks of hair. When highlighting with a bright blue, instead of trying to highlight all the hair, I settled for two sort of lines of reflections. One going across the scalp, where the hair parts two ways, and another one halfway down the side of the hair, on the side with most hair on it. Sort of where light would reflect off shiny hair if you were standing outside. And I thought this really sold the effect of hair. And the 2 riders were complete. Why the blue hair? I don't know. But my theme for this entire army has been trying to add color. It just stands out so much more on the tabletop. Something I learned from my first rather grim and dark army that just kind of looks like a grey blob on the table. See, it wasn't all a waste of time.
And there we are. The dragons are done. These lovely beasts now on lovely bases, and the miniatures, or the riders, should I say, are done. I really think these turned out great. And they're standing at the back of what's the, remnants of my still legal Stormcast army. Let's not look over here. Now, I know lots of you have been following my work on this army, and I'm sorry you didn't get a better sort of end to the whole thing, but this is the end that we were given. And so we're just going to have to live with that. I will play with this army. Don't know if I'm going to paint these. We'll see. I can just use other miniatures as proxies to whatever new things will arrive. I feel kind of done with the Stormcast. And I'm happy to have been along for the ride. Now, I just hope I haven't come across as grumpy. These things happen. I don't think we have the time in our lives to get too upset about things that relate to little plastic toy soldiers. And if you are really upset about what's happened, if your army has been completely withdrawn or more than half, and you can't really handle it, I'd suggest just checking out other games. There's plenty of companies out there that make great war games and great miniatures, and you don't have to stick to Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your mum. If you really want to support the channel, please consider checking out the Patreon or my website where you can buy merch, stuff like that. Patreon predominantly is what keeps this channel afloat, and a great thank you to all my patrons. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.